We've got flags and banners, and if you mind your manners, we might even get to standards and what they represent. So just take my voice's hand and we'll both try to understand how this vexilla logic podcast could be flagged for content. Flagged for content.
What's up, Vexheads, and welcome to episode 80 of Flagged for Content. Or should I say part 1 of episode 80. That's right, Annie and I talked a lot about these little Soviet toy flags. I felt like we could have talked all day, and we almost did as a result. But in the interest of getting my episodes down closer to like an hour 15, I cut this one in half and actually made 2 hour and 15 minute episodes. So that's how much there was. But, you know, double the value in that case. Do check the show notes. I know I always mention that, but if you want a little preview of part 2, I guess you could do that, because I'm going to put all the show notes in the same, you know, drive folder just for all of our sakes. But yeah, you won't have to wait too long on part 2. I'm going to try and get that out tomorrow. If it's not tomorrow, I will get that out Monday. So yeah, I'm not going to leave you hanging for too much. Anyway, I got a couple shout outs to give before we get into it. First, I wanted to thank and shout out Evan Dunker at EvanD823 on Instagram. He is the one who gifted me and made the stand for these the flags of the SSRs behind me. Lord, my words. But these little ones, and if you've seen other episodes, I've got the like Australian and Canadian provinces, states, territories. Those are all him as well. So huge thanks to Evan. He's a once and future guest as well, so you can check out his episode. I don't know what number it is if you search by his name. And always, as always, I got to thank Flags for Good. They are the sponsor of the show. They make everything possible. Michael's a close friend and a good guy, and they're a good company. Go check out flagsforgood.com. They've got new flags dropping all the time, including the top 3 from the Great American Reflag, which I mentioned on the last episode of the one before it. Anyway, a lot of exciting stuff going on. When you do check out, all 50 items in your basket can get 10% off if you use code flagged for content, all one word, and 4 like the number in the middle, flagged for content. That gets you 10% off, and it also helps me get to ICV 31 in Paris. I would love to go there and be able to report on that for you folks. Obviously for selfish reasons as well, but I would try and do as much flag journalism, etc., as I could. So really crossing my fingers for that. Every little bit helps. Was that enough? Is that too much? All right, whatever. I think that's going to be it for now for this intro. Pardon the cutoff of Annie Platoff. It's a weird spot, but it was the best way I could cut this episode. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into part 1. Folks, we've got a guest this week that's going to raise some red flags. You know her as the first woman to win NAVA's Driver Award. You know her as the only person to win all 4 awards from FIAV. And I know her from a very contentious NAVA trivia night. It's Annie Platoff!
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming on, Annie. It's been a long time in the making. I think I met you like 2 NAVAs ago, and
I think Minneapolis, yeah.
Meant to reach out much sooner, but how are things you're in Santa Barbara, I want to say?
I am in Santa Barbara. We actually live in Goleta, which is just kind of on the edge of Santa Barbara, but most people know Santa Barbara better. So.
Gotcha, right. Is Santa Barbara, is that the minor league baseball team that's like the Banana Slugs or whatever?
No, and the Banana Slugs are a university, so that's UC Santa Cruz. They're up the coast from us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I live close to UC Santa Barbara, which is where I worked for many years.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And yeah, and speaking of UC Santa Barbara, I've got your business card here. I'm not going to show the whole thing with, your number and all that, but trust that I have it. And it's got Annie Platoff, comma FF. Is that like flag fellow or what is that?
Fellow of Fiov. So
Oh, right. Okay.
with the Fiov titles, you get the little postnomials to put after your name. So
Okay.
FF is Fellow of Fiov, and then a step above that is Laureate of Fiov, which is LF. So now I'm properly FF LF.
Oh, okay. So you keep both.
Yeah, I get to use both now.
Gotcha. Well, that's cool. You got to get some new cards made then, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to do that before I head off for the next International Congress of Vexillology. So
Yeah. It was just funny seeing it like because your last name ends in two F's, and I was like, they're really
oh,
emphasizing
that's a
the
lot of
F's in
F's.
this.
Yeah.
Like Platoff.
I don't think I ever got an F in my life. So I think
Well, there you go.
my
Got two
first
right
F.
there. All right, perfect. Well, Annie, I could talk to you all day. We already did a lot off air. But let's get into the what's on the flagpole today for the Vex heads. We're going to do our usual over and underrated flags. And the main part, we're going to focus on Annie's presentation from NAVA 59 about toy flags in the USSR. And before we wrap up, we will chat some more about Annie's research on Soviet flags and symbols. So, if you're like way into Soviet iconography like me, or just want to learn more, also like me, this is the episode for you. But Annie, before we get into any of that good stuff, I like to ask my guests, what is your favorite flag?
So everybody, you get asked this question a lot. And
Yes.
I
Yes.
must say I have way too many favorites. But the
Uh-huh.
one I picked for today is Canada. And
Okay.
the reason I wanted to pick Canada for today is because it really was one of the first flags to have an influence on me.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of the first international flags that I learned as a child. And
Okay.
to be perfectly honest, I when I was younger, I really, really wanted to be Canadian because I thought they had a better flag. I really loved the layout of the flag. I
That
like
says so much about you, like in
I
every
like the
way.
Canadian pale because I like the way it's laid out. It
Yes.
leaves so much more room for a central emblem.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
I really, really love the geometry of that maple leaf. The fact that it had a point of symmetry for me was just like, whoa, look at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So that flag I think will always be special for me because of that. Nowadays I want to be Canadian for other reasons, but we won't get into that.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's for a different show, but
Yes.
yeah, I think that puts you in pretty good company with Ted K among others. I know that was at least on the show that was the one that he mentioned as his favorite flag. And like you said, for the listeners, I always ask the guests what is either your favorite flag or the flag that got you into flags. It sounds like this was like a little bit of both for you.
A
Like
little bit
it
of both.
maybe wasn't the one, but it was an early one that got you into it.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I didn't have any flag books. I got my first actual flag book when I was in college.
Oh,
So
really?
all I had was the World Book Encyclopedia F,
Okay.
and I still have it. I snagged it from my mom's bookshelf one time when she let me have it, and it's autographed by Whitney Smith. Because later
Oh,
on, I got him to sign it because he wrote a lot of the encyclopedia articles about flags in the 60s and 70s. So
I
a lot of kids that grew up during those decades probably read Whitney Smith's article before they read anything else about flags.
wow, you're blowing my mind, Annie. That yeah, I
It's a
know
treasure.
did not know that. Yeah, absolutely. I have like a spreadsheet where I keep track of all my flags, and there's like one column that's just called treasures because it's like
Yes,
I've got the North Star assigned by Becker and Lee Harold and a few other ones,
nice.
but like nothing like that. Like I I I have such what it's not FOMO because it's like past tense, but like I'm so upset that because I went to Boston University and I studied
Oh,
linguistics.
yeah.
And that's, if I were there, admittedly 20, 30 years earlier, probably, I would have known Whitney Smith.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even when I went to BU, I didn't, I was into flags, but I wasn't like nearly as active in the hobby as I am now. So I didn't like track down, like, I didn't do like a spiritual Whitney Smith trail journey or anything that I,
Well, I feel really, really lucky because I joined NAVA in '84, and in '85 the meeting was in Kansas City. And
right.
so I came home one day. I This was just after I graduated from college, no job, living with my parents, typical story. And I came home one day and my mother said, "Do you know a Dr. Whitney Smith?" And I said, "What?" And she says, "Yeah, he called and left a message. He wants you to call him." And it was like, "Why is Whitney Smith calling me? That's weird." So I called him, and it ended up he was coming to Topeka for a week before the Kansas City meeting to do research in the archives
Uh-huh.
and in the state library. And so he invited me to come do research with him. And it was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So I spent, I think it was nearly a full week in libraries and archives with Whitney Smith. And he basically taught me how to use archives well, because even with my degree in history and poli sci, I just hadn't really used archives.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, he explained, how the finding aids are usually organized,
Oh my
and
God.
how he went around finding flag laws.
How
And
microfiche
it was
works.
crazy. It was such a neat week. And the
Wow.
I couldn't take him I took him around to some of the sites in Topeka that I thought were slightly impressive.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so the main two for flag people, there's a painting in the Capitol building of John Brown,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it's something like, I can't remember, Prelude something. I can't remember the title of the painting. We'll have to look it up.
I'll look, you know what? Yeah, I'm
Yes,
gonna
you can look that up and we can say it and edit it in. But basically, it's a Civil War, bleeding Kansas kind of imagery from
right.
when Kansas was entering the Union. And so it's got John Brown with flags. And then the other place I took him was, there's actually a flagpole in Kansas, in Topeka, at Topeka High School, right in front of the school. And it's
Mhm.
an old spar from Old Ironsides. And it's because kids at Topeka High raised money to help with the preservation and renovation of Old Ironsides. And so when they took the spar off, they sent it to Topeka for them to use as a flagpole. so,
Wow.
so I took him there, and I think even Whitney was kind of impressed by that one. He was like, "What is this doing here?"
Right. Well, plus as a Boston guy, well, I don't know if he's
I
from there, but like,
know.
yeah, like that's right in Charlestown. That's right there. Yeah.
Exactly.
That is
So
very cool and very small worldy.
there you go.
Oh man. Yeah, you just made a lot of Vex heads very, very jealous with that
Well,
story.
the flip side is I'm older, so I'll die first. So if that makes you feel any better.
Yeah, well, uh,
There you go.
there you go. So anyway, the flag of Canada. There you have it. All right. Let's move into either your over or underrated, whichever one you want.
Well, let's do the underrated first. So,
Let's.
and I can hold up my big one.
Okay.
It's a relatively big one. Okay,
Perfect.
so
I'll hold
I
up my
picked
smaller one.
Tibet. And the reason I picked Tibet is because I really love that it breaks all the rules, but it's really an awesome flag.
It
So
is.
I'm not one of those people that obsesses about flag design and flag rules or heraldry rules. So for me, I can love this flag just for what it is without
I yeah, I
obsessing
agree
about
with
it.
you on all the above.
Yeah, I love the snow lions. I love the Buddhist symbols. I love the sun and the rays. And of course, they used this before they adopted this flag in 1913. So it predates Arizona with the sun rays.
Right. Didn't think of that.
And I love the weird border. The
Yeah.
border at the hoist and the top and the bottom, and not at the fly,
It is
which I
bizarre.
don't know the reason, but it's
Be-
just fascinating.
It's bizarre too because like so you're holding yours up and I almost thought yours was backwards because
No,
I've got
mine's
mine here and mine's got like the stick attached too where yours
yeah,
doesn't. But
yeah.
like and the fact that my camera is mirrored to me and yours isn't and
Oh, that's
everything and I was
true.
like I can't figure out which friggin' way this thing goes. Like,
Well, it could go either way. There you
yeah.
go. If that makes you feel better. That's the beauty
No,
of
but
print through flags.
I guess
But
I know. Yeah, yeah.
the other thing I like about it is I love when I go to an art museum. For some reason,
Me
I
too.
always gravitate to the Asian and Buddhist art
Hmm.
areas. And so what I like about it is it also kind of reminds me of the Tibetan Buddhist um, religious tapestries and stuff. They just have a lot of symbols on them, and you really have to look at them carefully to kind of unfold everything that's going on. So I kind of also like that they transferred that into a flag.
Yeah, sorry for the silence. I am
Oh,
making
no
a
worries.
note to look up some Tibetan Buddhist tapestries and include them both in the show notes and on screen for the viewers when because that's a world that I know nothing about as far as the tapestries, etc.
Well, I don't either. I just like to stare at them. So,
Yeah, well, fair, but I don't know if I've even laid mine eyes upon them. So
oh, they're just often very complicated and have a lot of symbols,
I mean,
and
if they
it's
look
just
like this, I'm gonna
yeah,
love them. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, you know what I think I did not ever notice until I started like really looking at it up close and you started and you mentioned the symbolism on it. But that orange, white, and blue, that is like the Buddhist colors, like that's kind of in that central thing with the flame, along with
Oh, yeah.
is that because you
See,
I know you mentioned
I
the
don't know
Buddhist.
all the symbolism, so
Yeah, fair. It's
we'd have
probably
to.
not super safe for me to try and delve into Far
If
Eastern.
you look it up though, like the Wikipedia article explains what those
Yeah,
symbols are
it
better
just
than I
reminded
ever
me
could.
because I just very recently got the like Buddhism flag or the most popular variant that's got like the
Yes.
orange that looks like the L for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Um
I
and so
like that
yeah,
one
so
too.
looking at this, I was like, oh yeah, it's same colors and everything. But yeah, Tibetan
So,
flag, very underrated, very cool. Anyway, let's move on to your let's see, that was under overrated flag.
okay. So my overrated flag, as a good Kansas girl, I have to get in a jab at Nebraska. So,
Aha.
um,
So the Nebraska state flag.
no, it's not the Nebraska state flag.
Oh.
So it's the flag, kind of a sporting flag for the University of Nebraska. So it's basically a red field with
Uh-huh.
just a plain white N. Well, the funny thing is, when you go to Nebraska, you see this flag flying more than you will see the state flag. It's everywhere.
Mm.
And so when I was in
Yeah.
college, my Model UN group went up to Lincoln for a Model UN. And, we're wandering around looking at Lincoln and blah, blah, blah. And people knew I was a flag person. And somebody pointed and they said, "Is that the state flag?" actually they actually thought that the University of Nebraska sporting flag was the state flag of Nebraska. So that just made me laugh.
I
But
guess you could be forgiven.
yeah, every time I've been in Nebraska, that I always think of that when I see those red flags with the ends.
Oh my
And then
god.
I have a little sporting joke to go with this story.
Ooh, delightful.
Yes. So, do you know what the N on those football helmets of the University of Nebraska stands for?
No.
Knowledge. My apologies to any U of Nebraska graduates,
No,
all those
trust me,
corn huskers out there.
they can't figure out how to listen to this, so it's all good. No, that is a fun one. That is definitely a little bit of a different overrated than we normally have. I also suspect this is the only red flag that you find overrated based
Perhaps. No.
on based on where
I
we're going with the rest of this.
I will admit, probably when I pass away and somebody goes through my box of flags, my boxes of flags, they're going to wonder a little bit. Because, yes, I
Yeah.
probably have a few too many red flags in my collection. But it's all for the sake of scholarship.
Exactly. That's what I always but it legitimately is, but it's also like really hard to explain to your neighbors, I think.
Yes, I generally do not fly these particular flags.
Yeah, I do. I've flown both the one. Actually, I don't know if I've flown the Russian SSR one behind me, but I have flown these for like long enough to shoot a video of them, and then they usually go down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've pulled them out for exhibits, or I used to sit in on Russian class at UCSB every year,
Hmm.
and so occasionally the professor would ask me to bring in a bunch of Soviet flags and things to show the students, and so
Sure.
I would do that, but usually I don't have them out on display. So
Yeah. Do you speak Russian?
not well. No, I
Okay.
speak I speak Russian with a very horrible Kansas accent, but I've learned
Oh,
enough that I can read and write in Russian. And
okay.
so I can actually go in and look at a book or a scholarly article and figure out which part is of interest to me. And then I can usually read it and get the gist, and then I'll go through and actually look up the words I don't know just to torture
Gotcha.
myself.
Gotcha. See, yeah,
So
I
it got me through my PhD. So that was a good
yeah.
that was a good many hours of studying Russian
Oh,
paid
I'm
off
sure.
in the end.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know Cyrillic. Like so if there are cognates, I can sound it
Yes.
out and be like, oh, okay, this must be generally speaking about that. And like a few words here and there, like mir or mira for
Yeah.
peace.
And
Uh
Mira.
yeah.
Mir. Either way.
But yeah, anyway.
That's funny.
All right. Well, that's kind of the focus of the rest of the episode. So let's go ahead and take an ad break so we can get to the rest of the episode. Um, listeners, yeah, stick around. We're going to get into the toy flags, which is a just fascinating phenomenon I've never heard of. More with Annie Platoff when we get back. All right, Vex heads, we are back here in part two, more with Annie. And yeah, as mentioned, we want to get into that NAVA 59 presentation on the toy flags from the USSR. But I'd love to get kind of like a background as to where this even crossed your radar, why you wanted to make a presentation about it, and just kind of like what interests you in this stuff in particular. So I don't know, kind of take us back to where these first came on your radar.
Okay, that's a great question. And a lot of my research is inspired by a flag I've picked up or something I've seen.
Oh yeah.
And so if you look at the different articles I've published in Raven, a lot of times it'll be I went someplace and saw like a label about some flag story and went, wait a minute, is that true? or I saw a flag or bought a flag and started
Hmm.
wondering where it came from. So, for example, the Russian Regional Flags book
Yeah.
is that came out of a trip to a flag store in Moscow where I bought little miniature
Ah,
flags, and then I started looking at the symbolism and going, what are these things? They're crazy. So that led me down a huge rabbit hole. And it's the same thing with these Soviet flags. This is the very first one that I ever bought.
okay.
My current spouse, well, my only spouse, and he was my boyfriend at the time. But
Right.
we went on a university trip over Christmas break to the Soviet Union. So it would have been December 1982, January 1983. And so I was, of course, trying to find flags and buy them, and they weren't that easy to pick up.
Sure.
But we did find them in a school supply store in Kiev. Is where I ended up buying a few. And this was in the case with the Young Pioneer scarf and the Young Pioneer pins. And
Okay.
so I just pointed to it and indicated I wanted to buy one, and she pulled
Yeah,
it
yeah.
out. So this is the only one they had at the time in the case, or I would have bought more. So what
Sure.
I liked about it was it's a neat little, it's a toy, it's something little kids can wave. It's not the national flag, so if the kid drops it in the ground later or does something
Yeah.
inappropriate, they're not
Yeah.
damaging anything. But it also has Soviet symbolism on it.
Right.
So this one has the Soviet state emblem and the letters SSSR in Cyrillic, which
Mhm.
stands for the Russian version of USSR.
Mhm.
So this is the
Yeah.
very first one.
Those less in the know will know it as like CCCP.
CCCP,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So I had that flag for a long time before I ever found any others. It wasn't until the breakup of the Soviet Union and people on eBay started selling all sorts of Soviet flag paraphernalia
Oh yeah.
from a lot of them are from people in the Baltic states, people in Ukraine, people in Belarus.
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
even bought some from people in Kazakhstan
Like get
or
this stuff out of here. Yeah.
yeah. Well, they just picked it all up because people elsewhere will buy it. And
Right,
so I
right.
started
Soviet
picking up
kitsch.
all these different toy flags. So here's another one. This one, the Russian says "Pust всегда будет солнце," which means "let there always be sunshine." So I'm thinking, okay, what on earth does this mean? I have no idea.
Right. And for
So
the
these, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say for the listeners, like do you want to explain the picture too? Because I can't you can explain it better
So
than
it's
me.
some little kids, and they're drawing a sun, and one of them's drawing a kid with balloons, like on the sidewalk.
Oh, like in like sidewalk chalk or
Yeah,
something.
with sidewalk chalk or something, or
Okay.
whatever the Soviet equivalent was.
Right, right. And for
So
and
go
also
ahead.
for the listener, all these flags are like are they like 1 by 2? They're like
They are 1:2 proportion
a bit
generally, yeah, to
longer
match the
than
Soviet national flag. So
yeah, right, right,
this
right.
is this is a good tip for if you're looking at flags on eBay. If you see them and they have grommets, or if you see them and they're not proportioned 1:2, they're
Yeah,
probably not authentic
they're
Soviet
repro.
flags.
Yep,
Yeah, they're repros.
yep.
But here's a couple others. So I like space stuff. So here's one with some
Ooh.
cosmonauts and a little rocket.
I don't remember that one from the presentation. I feel like I
It'll be in the website when we look at it later.
okay, perfect.
There's some more space ones. I'll show you those.
I love
Okay, and here's a matching one with another little rocket.
is he smiling or does he kind of
Of
have just
course he is. He's a happy Soviet cosmonaut flying for the good of socialism. Uh, this is a really weird one. So this is a flame
that is so cool.
with the red star, and we know it's a red star. So it's always a red star with a yellow fimbriation.
Yes, that took me so
Yes,
long to
it's hard to
know.
understand, but that's what that is. And if you turn this sideways, it's the flame from the emblem of the Soviet Young Pioneers.
Yeah.
So this is basically a Young Pioneer related flag here.
Listeners, check out the show notes because that thing is too cool not to see. It's
And this is another one. There's only two in my collection that are overprinted. This is the one I pulled. And so this one's just crazy when you start looking at it. So we've got a dove of peace, because
Suraj.
peace is a very strong theme in these little toy flags.
Uh-huh.
It says
Yeah.
Spraznikum, which means with the holiday. It's basically the Russian version of happy holidays.
Okay, okay.
We've got the hammer and sickle and the red star from the Soviet national flag. And then the flowers are poppies. And poppies, you can't think of this like British symbolism where poppies are remembrance for war.
Mm-hmm.
In Soviet symbolism, poppies are a symbol of revolution.
Mm.
And I think a lot of that comes out of the early days of the revolution. The way a lot of the revolutionaries identified themselves to each other was they would wear something red on their lapel.
Right. I was gonna say because poppies are
Yeah,
red, it makes
like a
sense.
flower, a red flower, or a ribbon or something, or they'd
Right.
have a red handkerchief in their pocket or something. So I think a
Right.
lot of the poppy thing comes from the signaling
Okay.
when
So, quick question after that. So you said you bought that one in, what'd you say it was like 82, 83?
83, that would have
That
been, yeah,
that
January
first one?
83.
Did you at the time, did you kind of clock it as a toy flag in quotes, or did it register more like, the kind of desk flags that we all have as flag nerds?
I think I really did kind of see it as a toy. I think I
Okay.
totally recognized it as a toy. And what was interesting about this is it wasn't until later, there's a paper I wrote that was published in Raven called Soviet Children's Flags.
Uh-huh.
And so in that one, I investigated the flags of the Young Pioneer Organization. So it would have been the various flags that young pioneer groups would have used. And then the younger group, kind of the equivalent of brownies and Cub Scouts, they were called the Little Octoberists. And so I
Yep.
looked at their flag
Yeah.
and I was checking into these flags and the symbolism and how they were used to teach children about the values of communism and kind of the basic tenets of the Soviet Union. And so then in researching that flag, I realized these little toy flags are part of that story
Right.
because basically what these are, let me pull up another one. Here's another one. This one has a Kremlin star. So this is a very famous version of a red star that everybody in the Soviet Union would have recognized because that's one of the stars on the towers of the Kremlin.
And that
And so
says
it would
happy
have,
holidays or whatever.
it says
Okay.
happy holidays. Yeah. And there's fireworks.
Okay,
So
yeah.
this
I
could be a holiday. This could be New Year's. This
Oh
could
right, yeah.
be the anniversary of the revolution. So Great October,
Okay. So it
which is
has the same
celebrated in
connotation.
November. Yeah. Or
Like
it could be May Day. It could
right,
be
right.
any of those holidays. Some of these flags are specific to a specific holiday. I don't have one in front of me right now, but they would say, 1 May or with the 1st of
I was
May
gonna
or
say, I'm
something like
sure
that.
like there's this book
There's going to be some pictures in there as
someone
well.
named
Yeah.
Anne Platoff wrote.
Yes.
Must
So
be a
we can,
relation of yours, but yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I use Anne when I do research and publishing,
No,
and I use
I know.
Annie for the rest
I
of
know.
the time.
But I
But
remember when
anyway,
I remember when I read through this, seeing a bunch of the May 1st one. Oh, okay, yeah. I'm kind of in the May 1st section here. These aren't the flags, but yeah, a bunch of like
yeah, those are the postcards. And so I have a little
yeah.
collection of those as well. And then if you look through Soviet children's books, there will be
And I
imagery.
do.
Yes, there will be imagery of kids using these flags as
Right.
well.
Okay, yeah, one of those postcards that I just showed. Yeah.
Yeah, so there'll be photos. We have plenty on the website that people can look at after the episode.
Yeah,
But
not
I
during.
started, yes, not
Don't you
during.
dare pause this.
So I started looking into the symbols used and the messages
Right.
and thinking about how these related to how would you teach a child to be a good Soviet citizen? And a lot of this you could think about what kind of political socialization you had in your own childhood because
Mhm.
you don't think about it. It's
Yeah.
all kind of in the background there.
Mhm.
But at least when I was growing up, when we started out the school day, we all turned to the flag in our classroom and we said the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yep. Same.
You go to a football game or a basketball game, you sing the national anthem. You go to a parade, any kind of parade. It doesn't have to even be a 4th of July parade.
Yeah.
And there will typically be a set of flags at the beginning of the parade.
And the
You
middle and the
drive,
end, probably.
yeah, you drive around town and you just see flags. They're everywhere. You don't notice them. They're kind of working in the background of your memory. So
Mm-hmm.
you go by a
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's and they typically have 3 flags at most McDonald's. They'll
Yeah.
have a US flag, a state flag, and a McDonald's flag.
Golden arches.
Yep, but a lot of companies do that. So in the scholarly community, this concept of these symbols working in the back of your head and being constantly exposed to them is called banal nationalism. And
Oh,
so it's basically just flagging identity. And the more you see it, the more you're exposed to it, the more subconscious it is, and the more it just sort of works in the background. So I think that's exactly what the Soviet educators were doing. I mean, they understood propaganda probably better than any other culture, and well, next to the Nazis perhaps, but the Soviet Union, they were proud of propaganda. They knew what it was. It wasn't a dirty word. The whole point
right.
of propaganda was to spread the message and to show that they were trying to build socialism.
Yeah.
And so, with these toy flags, this is just another method of doing that. You're teaching the children the political culture of their society through toy flags.
Right.
Now,
Right.
what really made these interesting to me is obviously there's a lot of Soviet symbolism. There's, let's pull up this one. There's a lot of peace symbolism. This one says Miru Mir, which means
Peace,
to
peace.
the world peace
Oh,
or
okay.
peace on earth. And so a lot of these flags, you know, we also were taught in the US this whole stereotype that the Soviet Union wanted to take over the world and that they were violent and, they were a threat.
Yeah.
So why are they waving peace on earth flags? That it
Right.
just
Right. Right.
a
Right.
lot of these messages
Runs
conflict
counter to the
completely
yeah.
with what I was taught as a kid in Topeka, Kansas in the 60s and
Yeah. I was gonna say,
70s.
I
So,
imagine, especially
yeah.
then.
So this is what makes me curious about things and
Mm,
makes me
mhm.
start looking into slogans, looking into symbols, looking into flags, doing research into the young pioneers. You have to research is sort of a many faceted, lots of fingers in many, many, many pies kind of
Yeah.
activity. And so you take one thread, like the peace theme, and you start researching it.
Uh-huh.
And so, I'll watch documentaries where they're interviewing people who grew up in the Soviet Union. And they talk about, oh, yes, we would sing songs about peace. We would make posters for peace. We would go for peace marches because they were being told kind of similar things about us,
Oh yeah.
that we were going to take over the world in the name of communism and profit. And,
For
so
capitalism.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, the more you start researching a culture, the more you can put yourself in from their perspective and start looking at it for what these things meant. Now, when
Yeah.
I was doing the Soviet children flag paper, there used to be a listserv. I don't know if it still exists. I think it may have been turned off. It was called Rusovex, and it was a listserv of Russian speaking vexillologists. And so usually I just kind of hovered, just,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just kind
Lurk.
of peeked in occasionally to see if there was something I understood when I read it or anything of interest. But when I started doing this research, I posted some pictures of those flags and I asked them, I said, what do you know about these flags? What can you tell me about them? Well, every single person who responded said, "Oh, those are just toy flags. They don't mean anything. They're just
Yeah. They're
toys."
not like to be taken seriously by the community. Yeah.
But if they're toy flags, why are there so many national symbols floating around on them?
Right?
See?
Yeah.
That's the real question. So that brings us back to the whole, how do you teach a child the values of your culture? How do you teach them the basic symbols of your political system? And how do you politically socialize them to be a good citizen? And it all that's the underlying story behind all of these. So,
Yeah. Wow.
and these are the questions I think people who are interested in flag should be asking. I mean, it's not hard to do flag research if you really start asking questions. I mean, I started
Yeah.
out as a complete rookie, not knowing what I was doing. I had no idea how to do research. I had no idea how to write a good, scholarly paper. I
Did
had no idea how to give a presentation on a paper I'd written.
yeah.
But with practice and trying with different topics, I've learned how to do that. So really, I think a lot of us have that capability. You don't have to have even a college degree. We have people in NAVA who have done amazing papers, and I'm not sure if they have degrees. They
Mhm.
certainly don't have PhDs, but
Right.
they do amazing work. So, so I think one of the messages I want to send is there's more to vexillology than just making flags and criticizing other people's flags. That's not really
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
vexillology is. Vexillology is the study of flags and their use and what they mean and the symbols and the
Yeah.
signals they send and why people care about them. That's really what vexillology is.
Yeah. What was your field of study? Like you talk about or you just talked about not really having much of a background on writing in that style, like writing in a research style.
Well,
What yeah, what were you doing before that, I guess?
Well, maybe I oversimplified it. My undergrad degree is in political science and history. So yeah,
Okay,
you do a
okay.
lot of research and writing, but you're not doing that kind of research and writing. You're writing a term paper. So I can think of
Yeah.
like a typical term paper for a poli sci class would be, what is the effect of having the veto power in the Security Council, and why will it be impossible to ever make that go away? So you go and you find books and you find articles in the library, and then you write a paper for your professor. But
Mhm.
that's completely different than doing original research on a topic. You're still using books, you're still using articles, but you're also using things like artifacts. You're picking up a toy flag and using it as a source for your research.
Right.
And that's what makes it completely different. It's more akin, in graduate school, I did some archaeology classes. So it's more akin to doing research about an archaeological artifact that you've dug up out
Oh
of a
yeah,
site.
that makes sense for sure. I well also
Yeah.
the one you're holding up right now looks like something from Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, the Smashing Pumpkins album. Uh
Well, if you think about, remember that song, Let There Always Be Sunshine? This
uh
is, so to a young pioneer, this sun would have reminded them of that song because that was one of the favorite songs that they sang at Young Pioneer Camp and at their meetings.
gotcha. Very cool. This is related but I guess not direct. Well, I'll just ask it this way. Like, so what got you into Soviet flags specifically? Was it you talk a lot or you just talked a lot about the kind of like socialization aspects of like how do you socialize a child to have these values, etc. Did you gravitate toward Soviet stuff because it was doing that so strongly and you were kind of looking for something that did that?
It's a combination. As an undergrad,
I guess like
I had
chicken
to,
and egg is what I'm trying to
yeah, it's
ask.
a
Yeah.
chicken and egg thing. As an undergrad, I had to take a language for my degree.
Uh-huh.
And, anybody could take Spanish or German. They were boring.
I've always
But
said that, yeah.
yeah, and where I went to Kansas State, and we didn't have that many languages offered.
Right.
But they did have Russian. And
Mm-hmm.
so I thought, okay, that'd be fun. I'll try that. so,
Yeah.
so instead of going the Spanish, German, French route, I dived right in and had to learn Cyrillic.
Yeah.
So I already had, but I really, even after 2.5 years, I couldn't really speak, but I could read some stuff.
Yeah.
And then I came back later in life and really studied it in more detail. So
Mm.
once I got to UC Santa Barbara, I found a professor. His name was Larry McClellan. Awesome guy. Hi, Larry. And
Shout
I
out.
don't think he watches flag videos. But anyway, he let me sit in on his class every semester. And the deal was that I would do all the reading, the writing, the tests, come to class every day, participate, do everything a regular student would do. So he just let me sit in.
That's
And it
nice.
is a lot harder to learn a language as an adult.
Yeah.
But yeah, because once your brain gets past that nice flexible area,
Yep. Yep.
you really have to work harder at it. But I really kind of always in the background knew I wanted to do a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And most PhDs want you to have a language, in addition to your
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
studies.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah.
so it was a combination of Russian. I'd been to the Soviet Union as a student, kind of as a complete alien, not knowing anything,
Yeah.
and then the whole flag thing and trying to
It's
put them all together.
it's interesting how our like a decision you make in like ninth grade about which language to study can, well, like in my case in ninth grade, like you said, college, but like it's just how much that can steer your whole everything. Like
Yeah.
if I hadn't have picked French because I thought like you said, I was like, anyone can take Spanish. I don't really like the sound of German. I do now, but back at the time I was like, I don't know, like French seems like the language of like intellectuals and like cool people and stuff. So I'll take French. And then like I ended up living in France for 2 years, which never would have happened if I hadn't
Oh, wow.
randomly made a choice to do that. Like you wouldn't have,
Yeah.
we may have
I wouldn't
gotten,
have gone to the Soviet Union if I hadn't
yeah,
taken
yeah.
Russian.
So I don't know. It's just, it's pretty wild to think about. But, all right, I think we're probably at about time for this middle segment. Let's when we come back into the third. Anyway, technical difficulties. I don't know what happened. Weirdest thing. But
All right.
when we come back for part 3, we will go into Annie's
Oh, yeah,
presentation itself. She'll walk us through that. She'll stop laughing, and we'll see you then, I hope.
oh man, don't.
Okay, Vex heads, we are back in part 3. Let's go ahead and get into the presentation on the toy flags themselves. Annie, if you don't mind sharing your screen, I will kind of let you drive us, as it were.
Okay, let me get the screen up. Okay, so what this is, one let me backtrack a little bit. What
Okay, yeah.
inspired this website? So, like I said, previously I did the Soviet children's flag paper. So I had given that to NAVA before. And this paper I gave at the meeting in Seattle was kind of a follow up, just focusing on the toy flags.
Okay, gotcha.
And so these toy flags, um, what I went out, I tried to collect as many different designs as I could.
Hmm.
And I looked at them and I thought, what could I learn from these? What kind of information can I glean from all these different toy flags?
Right.
So that was really kind of the goal of this paper that I gave. And one of the things that I think we don't do in vexillology enough is share our data. Now,
Hmm.
professionally, I was a librarian. And so we talked about data sharing and data citation and that sort of thing all the time at work. So
Right,
one of
right.
my goals with this project was also to figure out how could I take all the data that I'm working with and share it with other people.
Mhm.
So I created a website using a platform called Omeka. And Omeka is
Not a paid ad.
not a paid ad. No, it's a nonprofit.
No, go on.
But
Yeah.
Omeka is designed for doing digital exhibits. So it's used a lot by libraries, museums,
Okay.
institutions of learning,
I can
that sort of
picture.
thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I put together an Omeka site that basically explains kind of my research, but it also has photos and information on all of the flags that I studied.
Mm,
So in my collection, I think I've got maybe 57 or so of these toy flags, and I think there's
dang.
maybe 50 unique designs.
Okay.
So I've been out on eBay a lot trying to figure out what I could find. And so
Yeah. What do you
the other th-
as a
go ahead.
brief aside, when you look for them on eBay, do you search toy flags, holiday flags,
I
Soviet?
usually do Soviet toy flag or Soviet holiday flag or
Okay.
Soviet children flag, or
Yeah.
child flag.
Maybe I
So
should cut
those,
that so people don't buy them out from under you.
oh, I don't care. I've probably bought all the ones that are available right now.
Right, right. No, I was just curious. I didn't mean to get you off track, but
Yeah. So in Russian, you usually see several different words for these. Okay. One is
mm,
детский флажок. So детский means children. That's just the adjective for children's. And flажок is a word that means little flag.
oh,
So this
okay,
word
the
right here
diminutive.
is, yes, it's the diminutive of the word flag. So it literally means little flag.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So детский флажок is one term, children's little flag. The
Uh-huh.
other term is this one right here,
Uh,
праздничный, which means holiday. So праздничный флажок is the other word, the other phrase you'll see for these. So they're either little holiday flags or little children's flags. And sometimes when Russians are translating to English, they'll call them flaglets. But as an
right.
English speaker, I would never use the word flaglet. It's just not a word that sounds right to me.
No, for several yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it just doesn't sound good to my ear. So
No.
so I
Or
usually
my
call
soul.
them just flags
Yeah.
because all of
Yeah.
my 4 by 6 inch flags that I have are just flags. Doesn't matter that they're little.
Right.
So on the website, my other goal was to go ahead and see if I could do this bilingually. And my idea here was that if somebody who's a Russian speaker from the former Soviet Union was interested in these flags, I wanted to make my data discoverable to them as well.
Yeah.
So the whole site I've tried to make in Russian and in English.
Yeah.
Now, my disclaimer here is I'm not fluent in Russian.
I was
So if somebody does find an error in my Russian, down here in the footer is my little disclaimer. It
okay.
says, the author is not fluent. If you find an error, please let her know.
Okay,
So,
gotcha. Yeah, I was gonna ask if you translated it yourself or if you ran it through something, but
I don't trust like Google Translate for everything.
no, me neither.
It's getting better and better.
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
think
Yeah, I'll
I
admit.
think if you actually think you're getting good, like if you write a paragraph and you put it in Google Translate and spit out Russian, there's going to be a lot of errors in there that somebody who speaks Russian is going to spot
Mhm.
because they just don't, the formation of the sentences doesn't sound quite right,
Yeah. Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, you can use
So
it in bits and pieces, I find usually, but
yeah, so typically what I'll do is I'll try to do the Russian myself, and then I will put it into both Google Translate and a Russian language translator that I use called what's it called? Translate.ru, I think. And so I'll put it in both and just make sure that it likes the Russian I've written.
yeah. Sometimes I
So
do
that's
it backwards too. I'll translate it into the language and then translate that translation back into English and
oh,
see if it still makes
absolutely,
sense. Yeah.
because then you can really tell if you screwed up
Yeah.
and picked
Yeah.
the wrong the wrong word.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
in the website, I've basically tried to set it up like an exhibit. So imagine you're entering a museum. This goes back to yet another field of study that in graduate school I got a graduate certificate in museum studies.
Okay.
And
Yep.
so I tried to set
Tracks.
this up very much like a museum exhibit. Now, let me pause for a second and talk about methodology. Because when you're doing research, you do have to have some sort of methodology. You have to go, okay, what are my research questions?
Yeah.
How am I going to investigate those research questions? How am I going to approach getting research information? How am I going to interpret these things?
Hmm.
And so, thinking back to when I also studied archaeology in graduate school, I kind of didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew
I
up.
can tell.
So,
Yeah.
so when you're in archaeology class and after it's gotten cold, because again, Kansas,
Uh-huh.
halfway through the semester, it got cold. And so we took all the things we dug up into the lab and we learned how to do lab stuff. And so everybody had to pick a certain group of artifacts and you had to learn how to sort them down and analyze them. And really, this analysis is what helps you to pull all the information out of the artifact.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
thinking about these little flags as artifacts, I decided, okay, let's go pull out the archaeology textbook and read up. And the technique I used is called typology. And so
Okay.
typology is where you basically sort them down based on shared criteria, shared things that you see in common. And so some of those criteria, see the flag that the kid is holding and it's got this little border around it
Yeah.
in the picture.
Uh-huh.
So, and it's a swallowtail. So
Right. Yeah.
if I'd had 4 or 5 flags that were all the same size that were swallowtail that had that border, I might put them in a pile together because they share those attributes.
Oh yeah. I'm familiar. Yep.
So at this state, you're not even looking at the symbols or the writing, that sort of thing. You're looking
Yeah.
more at the size, the shape, the whether it's got a
You're
border.
funneling. You're starting kind of macro and then
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So I ended up sorting out the flags into groups. And so let me sort this by the title. So the first group is type A, and all these flags
Like a bunch of
are the same
annoying people I know.
size. They're the same size, they're the same proportions, and they all have this yellow border around them. And if you look at the hoists, they all have the same markings on the hoist. So when I
Right.
started sorting these flags down,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
once I saw this little symbol, and we'll talk more about that, I realized, okay, that's a factory symbol. That's the logo of the factory. I had actually succeeded in putting all of these flags in groupings, this particular group in groupings
Uh
because they're by the same manufacturer.
okay. So you
But that
kind
was
of
just accidental.
right.
I mean, it was looking at the size and the shape and the layout of them.
And
These
then you
also
notice
have this little fake fringe at the
yep.
fly,
Yep.
which none of the others had. But as soon as I got them in the pile, I realized, aha, this is working
There's a
because these are,
reason that yeah.
yeah. And so let me show you one more type and then we'll go back a little bit. All right. So let's look at type B. So most of the flags are in the national flag colors. Most of them are red with
Mhm.
yellow print on them.
Mhm.
But sometimes they're red with white print, and sometimes they're white with red print. And then there's a few outliers that are weird colors we won't get into.
Oh.
But again, here's a set that I looked at the size. They were all swallowtails. They were all glued to the staves, not nailed. And
Right,
sure
right.
enough, when I got looking at them, I think they're all by the same manufacturer. So basically, I just sorted down my collection to see what I could figure out from them.
Okay. Yeah.
So after the program, people can come in and they can just go in and look at the flags by group and kind of see how this sort down worked. So let's go back to the exhibit. Again, I've set this up like an exhibit, so you can work your way through all of the different points. And so basically, you could just use this right-hand navigation. So first, what is
Okay.
a holiday flag? I managed to buy some pictures of Soviet children using these different flags off eBay. So I have no idea who this child is.
Right.
But somebody sold his picture. Okay, so let's look at terminology. We talked about that a little bit, about the word flажок, about праздничный and детский.
See, that's that one at the top, terminology, that's one I could get.
Yeah, terminologia.
Terminologia.
And then you have to go back and look at the cultural context, because these are artifacts. Artifacts come out of human culture. The whole point of studying artifacts is to learn more about human culture.
Mhm.
So the next thing I did was I went and researched Soviet holiday culture. And so, I
Right.
looked up what were the major Soviet holidays.
Okay, to get the bigger
What
picture surrounding these.
exactly, exactly. So the Soviet holiday calendar was very rich and had a lot of patriotic days,
Oh,
but
sure.
the
Yeah.
primary 3 holidays would have been
May Day.
well, let's start on New Year's,
Oh.
because New Year's. So New Year's is kind of a cool Soviet holiday. And when I went to the Soviet Union, it was over Christmas and New Year's break from school. And we went to the hotels and they had what we thought were Christmas trees set up in the corners of the lobbies with red
Right.
stars on top. And it's like, no, wait a minute. They're officially an atheist country. Why do they have Christmas trees? Well, what I learned was those trees are called yelka. It's like a pine, an evergreen tree. And the yelka came from Orthodox Christmas celebrations before the revolution. But
Mhm.
if you think about Russian Orthodoxy and you notice on the calendar, the dates are always different for Christmas and New Year's because the calendar was different pre-revolutionary.
Right, yeah.
So Russian Orthodox Christmas was 2 weeks after Western Christmas. So very close to New Year's.
Yeah.
So what the Soviets did was they took that tree
Well, equally
and
as
all
close.
of the fun stuff for Christmas. They had a guy that looked kind of like Santa Claus, only he's Grandfather Frost or Ded Moroz.
Did he?
He brought presents.
I'm assuming he wore red.
He mostly wore red, although I have seen him in blue and white sometimes, but mostly wore red.
I was gonna say, I think it'd be ironic as hell if the Soviet Santa Claus didn't wear red. But anyway, go on.
He had a sled. Instead of being pulled by reindeers, it was a traditional Russian troika with the 3 horses.
Okay.
So Ded Moroz would come on New Year's. People would decorate these holiday trees with little, like, garlands of Soviet symbol flags and
Mhm.
little ornaments that may have had Soviet symbols on them.
Sure.
So anyway, you start learning about these holidays in the culture, and they help you to kind of understand where stuff's coming from, where it might be used. So the other holidays, probably the most important for world socialism, is May Day, which you mentioned.
Yeah.
So this is a holiday postcard for May Day. And notice that the little children are holding our toy flags.
Yeah.
And they're emulating what the adults are doing on the TV.
Ah, right.
Yeah,
That
so
is
the
an important
adults,
detail.
Yeah, the TV's showing the May Day parade in Moscow, and the adults are all carrying red flags in their groups, marching through Red Square,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
big production. So these little kids are playing like they're in the parade, waving their little toy flags.
And she's got poppies as well.
She has poppies, and he's wearing the red star pin of the little Octoberists.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So let's look at a couple of these postcards. Here's some more of the little kids. Again,
Okay, yeah,
another
these
little
are in your book, I
Octoberist.
think.
Yeah, they'll be on the website too. This one is in Latvian, but again,
I
it says "Long live the 1st of May."
was just gonna say.
You notice the three children are different races.
Yep.
This is to show the globalism,
Mm-hmm.
the internationalism of socialism.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of named this the three races theme. It's a common thing you'll see on
Yeah.
on some of the Russian or Soviet propaganda.
Right.
And then there's our buddy Ded Moroz with his
Okay,
with the
yeah,
kid.
he's pretty much Santa Claus looking.
Yeah. And then the other, I don't think I have a postcard for this one, but the
Wait,
other
scroll back down
holiday.
to him.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah,
I want to
that's
see
all
him
right.
more.
I
And
like
the
Ded Moroz.
flag that the kid is carrying.
Exactly, it's a peace flag. So again, we're back on that peace flag.
Right, right.
That
And
peace theme.
and they
And
got
the writing says "S Novim Godom," which is with the new year or Happy New Year.
and then right where you've got the mouse hovering, there's a
A
like
rocket.
rocket ship. Yeah.
Of
Yeah,
course.
they fit a lot in here. They were
Yeah.
damn
me see,
good
I forgot
propagandists.
One more. No, I think that was the end of the postcards. So the one I don't have a postcard for on the scroll there would be the anniversary of the October Revolution, which was celebrated on November 7th,
Of
because
course.
after the revolution, they changed
Yeah.
calendars from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the Great October Revolution was celebrated in November, but we all understood why.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll work our way through memories of little holiday flags. So the next thing you often want to do is go see. Historians talk about primary source material. So primary source material would be things from the time period,
Right.
like the flags themselves. So my most important primary sources for this research are the flags, but other primary sources could be interviews with people who lived in the Soviet Union, remembrances of people who lived in the Soviet Union, of their interactions with these little flags. So there I went and asked people about the flags, and I got some quotes. I didn't get that many responses, but my first time I tried, one of them said it was pretty typical to see a Soviet child holding a flaglet of this kind in hand. Another of the vexillologists said these were not serious vexillological objects. So again, I'm talking to flag people here.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned
Yeah,
that
and he
in
says
your
they look
presentation.
like
Yeah.
toys and were used like toys as well too. And so they're not thinking of them as anything serious.
Right.
I also went to a listserv for people who teach Russian and Slavic languages and asked to see if I could get anything from some of them.
Oh yeah, this is the one you mentioned earlier.
And so one of the people said, I got them at May Day demonstrations to which my father took me. And then in parentheses, all adults had to go with their organization.
Right.
So just these little quotes, they're giving you more insight into what people remember about the flags.
Yeah, yeah. Painting the,
and I have a
the
survey
picture around it. Yeah.
If we have anybody watching this video who grew up in the Soviet Union,
Okay. Yeah.
please click and answer the survey,
And
because
we
I'd like to hear what your memories are about the flags.
We probably do. I don't know if they're
Who
viewers or
knows?
listeners, but yeah, I was going to say for the listeners and the viewers, definitely go to this website. I will have it linked in the description of the episode and everywhere. So I always say check out the show notes, but it's like essential this time. So definitely
So
check
I
this
already
Go on.
Go ahead. Yeah. So I already talked about the typology and showed you just the examples of the type
Yeah,
group.
yeah.
But let's talk about themes. Because again, when you're studying, especially a group of artifacts, you have to think about looking at them different ways. So one way was to take them and put them into these type groups to try to figure out maybe which ones were made by the same manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
Another way to look at them is by looking at all of the different themes. And so on this particular page, I talk about the different themes.
Right.
And then down below,
Peace,
you can
etc.
go and you can click on, let's say, flags for May Day. And you can see all the different flags that are tagged because they specifically talk about May Day. Well, I can't believe there's only 3, but that's because they specifically say
Yeah.
May.
Okay. Yeah. This is like
Yeah,
when you. I mean, yeah, like you've mentioned a few times now, like a museum, basically,
exactly. And
where you can
here's the
go
space
to their
theme.
archives, search by, like, yeah.
So I have, 4 that have space themes. Here's kind of a Sputnik-y one.
Ooh, I like the drop shadow lettering on that one.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Friendship. Let's see, where are my friendship ones?
Okay, so I see you've got one, flags in Latvian. Why
Yes.
specifically? Are there more in Latvian than in the other languages of the USSR?
My theory is one, that my methodology for buying flags has limited the availability of what I'm going to find.
Okay.
So I believe that the reason I have 3 flags in Latvia is because there was a factory in Latvia making flags.
Okay, gotcha.
So, and because there are sellers on eBay from the Baltic states and from Ukraine and Belarus. So most of the flags I've purchased from people in those 5 countries.
Right.
If I can find somebody from Kazakhstan that sells stuff on eBay, it's possible. Maybe they made them in Kazakh if they manufactured them in Kazakhstan or other places. But I can't say. I've never seen them in languages other than Russian and Latvian.
I just would think you would see some Estonian and Lithuanian like you would see ones from all 3 Baltics, but
I think it's based on where the factory was. That's my theory. But I don't have any way to prove that.
I mean, and there's some like Bella, yeah. I was gonna say, like, there's this one that I have is it's a regular sized Soviet flag, but it is from the period. I think it's from the 80s in Belarus, and it's got that same symbol there.
Yeah, as Group A.
As your Group A ones, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to the symbols in a minute.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, that's cool.
I was going to say, like, it's possible that some of them are in Belarusian, but Belarusian is
very close.
Very close. Like, it may be words,
but I could tell if I saw it. Yeah, there are a few little tip-offs.
Well, right, and like Ukrainian has like the
and
I
Ukrainian.
with the dot, but like
exactly.
But if it's a word that doesn't involve any of those letter changes,
then it would be hard to tell.
Yeah. Okay, Vex heads, that will do it for part 1 of the episode. I know we didn't get to our like plugs and usual outro stuff like that since there was that cutoff and everything, but most of Annie's stuff, I think you can either search her name or it will be in the show notes. In the little description under this episode. I think most of what she plugged was in there anyway. As for the show, linktree.com/flagged for content, all spelled out, is the thing I plug every time. That's got our links for everything and then some. So yeah, thank you for listening. Thanks for watching part 1. We will be back very soon with part 2, and I'll catch you on the fly side. Flag for Content is proud to be sponsored by Flags for Good. Go to flagsforgood.com for more information. Flagged for Content is hosted, produced, edited, occasionally written, and always nitpicked over by me, Andy Richardson. Catch y'all on the fly side, Vex heads.